The woods were quiet. Only the breeze rustled through the nettles, and a faint scent of rain clung to the damp earth. A blue police tent stood like a ghost in the clearing, silent, out of place, but bearing witness to a crime so brutal it would haunt this place forever. 50 yards from the main road, in a place where children once played and joggers brought their dogs for morning walks, the body of a woman had been left under the open sky, naked, washed and stabbed more than 30 times. Her name was Kate Beagley. And this is the story of how her light was stolen by a man she barely knew, and how in the wake of her death, a nation once again found itself asking, how do we ever truly know someone? On the morning of May 31st, 2007, the town of Walton-on-Thames stirred to life like any other day. But for one family, a growing panic was setting in. Kate Beagley, 32 years old, loyal, intelligent, grounded, had not turned up to work. It was unlike her. She was punctual, diligent, dependable. Her father, Alan, felt a pressure rising in his chest as he drove to her home, hoping for something, anything that would explain the silence. But her house was empty. Her car was gone. And so was she. When she missed a second appointment that day, Alan didn't hesitate. He called the police and reported his daughter missing. We often imagine there will be a sign, a scream, a break-in, a struggle, but in truth, the first sign of a tragedy is usually silence. That awful, unexplained silence that wraps around the people left behind. As the hours passed, Kate's friends took to the streets, taping up missing person posters, refreshing early Facebook groups, and calling everyone they could think of. But no one had seen her. No one had heard from her, except some people were still getting texts. Texts from Kate's phone. But something was off. The messages didn't sound like her. They used odd phrases, words she never used. Her friends were the first to sense it. Her patterns, her tone, even her emojis they were missing. When police searched her home, they found something interesting, a second phone. On it, messages between Kate and a man named Carl. They had met a few weeks earlier at a London nightclub. Nothing serious, just exchanged numbers, but 2 nights before she vanished, they went on a proper date. The dating world, even in 2007, was a minefield of uncertainty. You meet a stranger, you trust your instincts, you hope for kindness. Kate had no reason to fear him, but perhaps she should have. Carl Taylor, 27 years old, fit, charismatic. A martial artist and football coach, lived in a flat in Covent Garden. He had a record fraud and an attempted suicide. But nothing at first glance that suggested he was dangerous. When police called his number, he picked up. He confirmed, yes, he had gone on a date with Kate. Yes, she dropped him off near Twickenham. No, he hadn't seen her since. But that didn't explain how he ended up with her car, or her shopping vouchers, or why he sold her phone to a friend the next morning. It didn't explain why his mother said he showed up that same morning, hours after Kate vanished, driving a Volkswagen Golf she didn't recognize, furiously cleaning the interior. People tell on themselves in small ways, through lies that arrive too quickly or stories that make too little sense. Carl was spinning a web, but the truth was bleeding through. Detectives knew they couldn't afford to wait. Kate was still missing and every hour mattered. So they called Carl again, this time from a private mobile, not an anonymous police line. He answered. He repeated the same vague story. She dropped him off, he went home, and that was the end of it. But when officers asked to meet him, he said something that chilled them. "Sure," he said casually. "I'm heading to a party tonight. You can meet me there." It was surreal. The woman he had just dated was missing. Her car was in his possession, her phone had been sold, and yet he was going to a party as if none of it mattered. 2 officers met him at a flat in Holland Park. The room was full of laughter and music, but behind the smiles, something about Carl felt wrong. He was cold, evasive, distant, and as the night wore on, he grew agitated, his tone sharp, his hands restless. The detectives exchanged a glance. It wasn't safe to continue this conversation in a crowded flat. They made a decision. With help from backup officers from the Met, they coaxed Carl outside under a false pretense and arrested him for the kidnapping of Kate Beagley. There's something deeply unsettling about a man who dances at a party while a woman's body lies hidden. It wasn't just a lack of empathy, it was the presence of something darker, indifference. Carl was taken into custody in Walton-on-Thames and placed in a cell. At first he said nothing. No comment, no emotion, no remorse. Detectives questioned him about Kate's car. The petrol station CCTV, the phone, the vouchers. Each time he refused to answer. They extended his detention, hoping pressure would break him. Then, on a quiet Sunday night, they allowed him one phone call to his mother. Minutes later, the station phone rang. Carl wanted to talk. Detective Chief Inspector Mark Preston, who had been awake for more than 24 hours, was preparing to sleep. But he never made it to bed. Carl Taylor had confessed. He said he attacked her because he wanted her car. She resisted. He stabbed her, over and over. He told police. She pushed me away. She was grabbing me, so I stabbed her in the throat. I consistently cut her in the neck because she was going for my face. But no one believed him. He was a trained martial artist, fit, strong. Kate, by contrast, was smaller, gentle. If this was a struggle for a car, why had he come with a knife? Carl said he would show them where she was. That night in the darkness, police escorted him to a remote nature reserve in Hertfordshire, Oxley Woods. He led them to a thicket of nettles, and there, under the moonlight, Kate's naked body was found. She had been stabbed over 30 times. Her body washed, her clothes gone. Carl told officers he had spiritually cleansed her to leave her open to the stars. As if that made any of it less monstrous. Kate's family was informed, but she could not be visually identified. The heat had accelerated decomposition. They had to use DNA. Later, police would find the murder weapon, a knife discarded from her car along the motorway. Her blood was on it. So were her bottles of water. He had used them to wash her. There's something ritualistic about the way he disposed of her, almost performative. It wasn't just violence, it was control. He wanted the last word in every sense. It was 3 in the morning when the search ended. The cordon went up. Forensic tents replaced the moonlight. The woods, once a place of peace, now whispered of violence. Kate Beagley had been found. Her body told a story of agony, more than 30 stab wounds across her face, neck, and head. Wounds too deep, too vicious to be anything but intentional. How do you explain this kind of rage? This wasn't panic. This was fury, controlled and directed. Carl had stripped her, washed her, and laid her beneath the stars. No dignity, no mercy, just a twisted ritual to cover his own guilt. Her belongings were gone. Her clothes scattered or destroyed. Her car abandoned in a London estate. Still, detectives pushed forward. They traced her movements. They combed the woods again. 100 used condoms were found in the surrounding area. Every single one tested, none connected to Carl, none to Kate. This wasn't a place of love. It was a place of discarded pleasure and buried violence. Kate deserved so much more. Carl finally revealed where he and Kate had gone before her death. A pub on Richmond Hill. They drank. She texted. He watched. Then they crossed the road to a bench near the Thames. There he struck. Her blood was found on the steps, on the handrails, on the ground. Evidence that screamed of struggle, of betrayal. It's chilling how ordinary the setting was. A bench by the river, a quiet night. A woman trusting the man beside her. Carl Taylor was charged with the murder of Kate Beagley. Despite his confession, he pled not guilty. He now claimed it was self-defense. He said she had taken her own life, that he had tried to stop her. The audacity was breathtaking. He had confessed. The wounds said otherwise. No one stabs themselves 30 times. At the Old Bailey, one of London's most iconic courts, the trial began. Kate's family sat in silence. The public gallery was packed. Carl took the stand. He told the jury Kate was unhappy. She was crying. She wanted to die. He claimed she had stabbed herself. In the face, in the neck, over and over. The courtroom held its breath. No one believed him, not even the judge. The prosecution rolled up a piece of paper and handed it to Carl. "Show us," they said. "Show us how she did it." He couldn't. He refused. Even the judge called his demonstration ridiculous and embarrassing. Then came the letter. A note Carl had written to Kate's family from his cell. He wrote, "Even though Katie is not with us, she still shines brightly as a star in the night sky. I might have taken your daughter's life, but her heart still beats in the good we all do." Detectives intercepted the letter. They never showed it to the family. It wasn't remorse. It was narcissism dressed as poetry. Sometimes evil wears a smile. Sometimes it writes poems about stars and flowers pretending to be soft, while hiding blood on its hands. The jury didn't take long. Less than 2 hours later, the verdict was in. Carl Taylor was found guilty of murder. The courtroom erupted in cheers, but Kate's family remained still. Justice, perhaps, but never peace. The judge sentenced him to life in prison. Minimum term 30 years. "You went to meet this girl equipped with a knife," the judge said. "She was looking for friendship. You gave her death." Outside the courtroom, the sky was gray. A drizzle soaked the courthouse steps. Kate's father, Alan, stood before the cameras. His voice was calm, but his hands trembled. "I speak for all of us," he said, "when I say our lives will never be the same again. Life seems empty and meaningless without Kate. There is no closure in grief like this. Only a quiet ache that never leaves." Kate's death was not just a moment. It was a fracture, one that ran through every life she touched. Her mother, Clea, struggled to speak. She had told friends she saw nothing but emptiness now, every day in every room. My wife, Alan, said, "Can't find comfort in anything." Kate's friends left flowers at the crime scene, notes tied to branches, messages on cards. One read, "I never met you, but I feel like I've known you forever." Carl Taylor would serve life, but with a chance for parole after 30 years. Kate's family, however, would serve a different kind of sentence, one without end. It's easy to think justice is a verdict, but justice cannot resurrect. It cannot erase. It only holds a mirror up to the horror and says, "We saw it, we named it, and now we carry it." Investigators were praised. 7 officers received commendations for their tireless work across 3 jurisdictions. Still, many couldn't help but wonder, what if Kate had never replied to that text? What if she had chosen a different night? But questions like that are cruel. They offer no comfort, only illusions of control. Years passed. The world moved on. But in a quiet reserve in Oxy Woods, flowers still bloom near the place where she was found. A ribbon on a tree reads, "We miss you, Kate. We wish you were still this side of the rainbow." What must it have felt like in those final seconds when trust became betrayal? When the world spun away into violence? We will never know what Kate thought in those final moments. But we know who she was before them, kind. Loyal, adventurous, loved, and that above all must be remembered. If this story moved you, we ask only this: carry Kate's name with you. Remember her not for how she died, but how she lived. And if you want more stories that seek truth, justice, and the human cost behind headlines, subscribe and join us again.